Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, fighting erupts in eastern DR Congo after a brief lull in the conflict and a call for a ceasefire from African leaders. Also, as a global conference on AI wraps up in Paris, in West Africa, we head to Sierra Leone, where they've already started putting ways to the test that tech can be used to shore up a strained education system. And thanks, but no thanks, South Africans expressed surprise at Washington's take on privilege and discrimination in their country after the US president offered refugee resettlement for white people that he says have been treated badly and faced historical racial discrimination. But first, despite African leaders' calls over the weekend for a ceasefire for DR Congo's conflict, fresh fighting broke out in the east on Tuesday. M23 Congolese rebels targeted army positions in South Kivu, and clashes broke out not far from the provincial capital of Bukavu. It's been bracing for an offensive for days now. Emmett Livingston tells us more.
After M23 rebels and Rwandan troops captured the city of Goma about 2 weeks ago, there was a brief lull in the fighting in eastern Congo. African leaders from the regional blocs representing East and Southern Africa also called for an immediate ceasefire. But clashes are now ongoing again, only a few dozen kilometres away from Goma, in the province of South Kivu. About 70 kilometres north of South Kivu's capital, the city of Bukavu, residents reported waking up to the sound of artillery fire on Tuesday, according to reports from locals and security sources. There are fears that the M23 is planning to march on Bukavu. On Tuesday, an M23 spokesman stated that the group would be forced to respond if what it called continued attacks on the civilian population continued. Congolese soldiers and militiamen did commit violence this week in South Kivu, in the area around the important military airport of Kavumu. Several civilians were killed and subsequently dozens of soldiers have been arrested. The governor of South Kivu, for his part, has said that the army has reinforced defences around Bukavu and that it's prepared to defend the city.
Emmett Livingston there for us. Now, the M23 are in South Kivu after marching on the capital of neighbouring North Kivu at the end of last month. Fighting stopped in Goma, but life for the city's remaining people is still rife with uncertainty and grief. Our team sent us this report.
In Goma, universities have begun to open again. But some benches are empty. There are far fewer students than usual. Anderson is happy to be back at his books.
We spent some time at home in a very bad state, so I feel very good to be going back to school.
Going back to university for these students is a reassuring sign that normality is returning to their lives. Goma is a city still battered 2 weeks after the fighting has subsided. There are unburied corpses still lingering at the city's Itige cemetery. Amani has volunteered to dig graves.
Some of the dead are already decomposing. It's not good. That's why I volunteered to dig the graves with my own spade. Today I dug 53, but here we've already buried around 1,200 people in total.
All day long, Red Cross volunteers come with bodies collected from across town. The burials are hastily arranged to prevent the spread of disease. Emmanuel is inconsolable.
My wife and children are dead. There was Adida, my daughter, Siana, my wife, and also Joseph and Nusra, my children. Rest in peace. They were bombed near the airport.
Many people are still grieving, but across the city, theft, murder and looting is ongoing. In this northern neighbourhood, a crowd has taken the law into its own hands, a reaction to the collapse of authority. 4 people were burnt to death in the middle of the street. Bits of charred tyre are still in plain view.
They were well-armed thieves who were arrested by young people. They were executed straight away because we suffered too much at night here. There was shooting every night. Insecurity has become a habit here. Many young people have picked up weapons after the fighting, and they come and steal from us.
According to the United Nations, at least 3,000 people have died since the beginning of January. This figure is still provisional.
3 months after he was again detained, Ugandan opposition politician Kizza Besigye has gone on hunger strike as the setting of his court date drags on. Besigye has been jailed since he was abducted from Nairobi in Kenya in mid-November. The four-time presidential candidate has been arrested and assaulted many times over his career, but has never been convicted of a crime. He denies the latest charges levied against him of attempting to buy weapons abroad. Before becoming an opposition leader, Besigye used to be the doctor of longtime President Yoweri Museveni, who's run the country since 1986. And Ghana's new president ordered that the finance ministry do what it takes to bridge the $156 million funding gap caused by the aid freeze from USAID. Accra's move to make up for the hit caused by the disappeared money comes as the chief prosecutors also have been set on the trail of more than $21 billion of state funds, which new leader John Mahama says went AWOL under his predecessor's government. Justice Baidu talks us through.
When Mr. Mahama took office about a month ago, one of the first major things that he did was to put in place this committee, which he calls Operation Recover or Loot. He assembled top investigators to go into cases of suspected corruption. Their job was to do fact-finding upon which the country's Attorney General could act. After going through more than 2,000 cases that had been brought before them, the group presented its report saying that the country could get back more than $21 billion in what it says are stolen public funds.
To those who think they can defraud the state and escape justice, let this serve as a strong warning. Ghana is no longer a safe haven for corruption.
Since its formation, this oral committee has garnered huge support, especially among many people who voted in last December's election. Several people are, however, very skeptical about how much money they can recoup back into state coffers.
Now that the oral team have been able to find out people who have been engaging or who engaged in corrupt practices, I believe that this time around, or my expectation for them is that they do that work, prosecute people.
My confidence in this entire thing is very low, but I'm just hoping that at least for this committee or for the Attorney General, he will prove us wrong because, you know, President Mahama talked about resetting Ghana.
Just this week, new data from anti-corruption watchdog Transparency International shows that Ghana has fallen in the latest edition of the Corruption Perception Index released from the 2024 year. The country is lagging behind its regional neighbors like Cape Verde, Botswana, Rwanda, and Mauritius.
Now, the AI Action Summit wrapped up here in Paris on Tuesday night, alongside the conversations about the global concerns over the development of artificial intelligence. Africa's AI Village was running in parallel, focused on the continent's specific needs in the fast-moving field. Top players from across Africa's digital spaces have been looking at how to structure the new African Council for AI, which is due to be unveiled by mid-2025. Exploration of how the tech can make a difference to public good has already started on the continent. This report from Sierra Leone.
So read the story carefully. So one person read, the others listen. Then it's on. So this next activity is here.
Nowadays, classes at this school in Sierra Leone look very different from the traditional ones of the past. Technology has opened up new ways to keep students fired up as they learn. Here in Port Loko, this teacher has used generative AI to design a custom-made program and break down today's reading comprehension workshop into 6 engaging and interactive steps.
So we write different questions, and then AI will give us the materials. It will help us to make the right materials according to their level.
It is helping my vocabulary skills, my abilities, how to pronounce vocal.
The new tool is helping to plug a gap caused by a nationwide shortage of trained education staff. About 2/3 of primary school teachers have no formal qualifications in Sierra Leone.
We are 12 in number. We are based, and out of that, we only have 6 staff that are qualified, It's actually a way for those teachers to improve in terms of their teaching.
This particular program was launched by the NGO Educade, who support AI-driven learning in around 300 schools across the country. But for poorer rural communities, even AI's potential is often limited.
At the moment, far from 100% of the teachers have access to a phone that can access AI.
EdTech's impact can only go as far as the infrastructure and funding permits, as the country is ramping up its digital transformation. Last year, Sierra Leone signed a $50 million deal with China to help give internet access to another 400,000 previously unconnected Sierra Leoneans.
Well, a flurry of online comments come from white South Africans less than impressed by US President Donald Trump's recent offer to give them refugee resettlement in the US because of how badly they have allegedly been treated at home. Last week, Trump cut aid to South Africa, allegedly because of the unjust racial discrimination that many people of Afrikaans descent suffer. Pretoria's slammed Washington's take as lacking facts and historical understanding. Meanwhile, many South Africans have been left scratching their heads by Washington's position.
I feel like Trump doesn't know anything about this. I feel like Elon Musk is pushing him behind to say there's something there, go look at it. Because why all of a sudden interest in SA? After all these years?
I think it's either an illusion or a fantasy on Trump to obviously gain more momentum.
Hey, there's a lot of things when it comes to Trump. I feel like Trump is just trying to scare people. I think he wants power.
And oftentimes we get stuck in world politics that have very little to do with black economic emancipation and have everything to do with white supremacy. So why would I even entertain another opportunity of white supremacy as a black South African woman?
Well, in Kenya, an ice hockey team's hoping to spotlight a sport that still remains largely unknown across East Africa. Nairobi's Ice Lions joined the International Ice Hockey Federation just last year and are already setting their sights on hopefully one day competing in the Olympics. Lauren Berstecker tells us more.
Skates tightly fastened and hockey sticks in hand, the Ice Lions make their entrance onto the rink. It may be 27 degrees Celsius outside, but the players glide and drift effortlessly onto the frozen field. All had to make the difficult transition from street to ice hockey, but for Captain Benjamin Mburu, there's no more turning back.
It's fun, it's addictive. When you get on the ice, it's like you're in a whole different world, it's exciting, it immerses you in and takes you wholesomely.
Since its introduction in Kenya by a group of Canadian expats in 2006, ice hockey has largely remained in the shadows. This ice rink in Nairobi is the only one in all of East Africa, and the €10 entrance fee remains too expensive for many locals. Despite their official status as Kenya's national team, the Ice Lions aren't paid and must share their pads, sticks and skates as they wait for sponsors and donations. Yet their coach believes his players have the enthusiasm and the raw talent to succeed and take their game to the next level.
It's a legitimate team. It's a real team and a strong team. Right? This isn't just a flash in the pan, one thing. They're a committed team, so they want to keep playing.
Last year, the Ice Lions became the 5th African team to join the International Ice Hockey Federation, paving the way for their participation in the first ever African Nations Cup later this year. But some players are already aiming higher and dream of one day representing their country at the Olympics.
Well, things are heating up for the Ice Lions. That is, though, all we have time for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.